Hello and welcome everybody. It's been some time since we've had a Saturday Night Live for our DOBBS weekend chats. Today I'm very excited because I have an distinguished guest with me tonight. Just going to introduce him is Dr. Vaikuntan Rajaratnam. He's a senior consultant and hand reconstructive microsurgery specialist at the Khoo Teck Puat Hospital in Singapore. Now, he's also the program director for instructional design and AI for healthcare with the National Healthcare Group in Singapore, and a UNESCO chair partner and adjunct professor at the Malaysian Asia Pacific University. And he has conducted numerous local, regional, and international workshops on AI integration in education practice. And he has empowered teachers, students, professionals to ethically and effectively utilize AI tools. Now, so it's no surprise that he's an excellent person to talk to about generative AI and prompting. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Vaikuntan. So, hi,
Hey, hi.
Vaikuntan. Hi, good evening.
Evening.
Dialing in
Thank you,
all the way
Alan,
from
for
Singapore.
that's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Thank you
yeah.
for inviting me.
No, no, thank you very much for being here. And just a bit of background. Vaikuntan is my senior in medical school many years ago, where I think I graduated in 1983. I think Dr. Vaikuntan graduated in 1980,
80.
if I'm
Yeah, yeah,
80, if not right.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I remember I was a medical student at the time in ER, and you were the seniors down there.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a very long time. We have some things in common. So other than medical school, we are both very interested in AI. Though I think you've your leaps and bounds ahead of me because you're very academically inclined in that area. I think the ravages of time also have seen we are a little bit thin at the top as well. So much for the
Oh,
similarities.
this was
Yeah, yeah.
intentional, Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is just going to be basically a chat session, but also it's going to be free for all. So, I'm going to ask Dr. Vaikuntan some things about generative AI and prompting. And feel free to interrupt us with any questions. You can use the YouTube uh, live chat to let us know what you want to know. Okay. So, you know, maybe I'll start off, Vaikuntan. So, what made you get interested in AI and inspired you to explore its applications in medicine? I mean, it's a big leap from orthopedics to artificial intelligence,
Yeah. I've always been interested in technology. I was one of the early. I still remember we went out for lunch with Professor Tiki Pang and Padmanathan. I don't know if they remember them. And we went for lunch and came back with the imitation Taiwan rotten apple, one of the earliest to buy a computer. And I also
Mm.
remember at our Friday afternoon CPC, or sorry, Saturday morning, we used to have, was it Friday? I can't remember. The CPC's interdepartmental things, and everybody were using blue slides. And I had used my rotten apple with the dot matrix green screen and used a
Hmm.
camera and took pictures of slides, and everybody was shocked. And he had a curve on it because the screen was curved. Later, I resolved it by taking a distance and then using a magnification. But that's my initial foray. But ever since then, I do a lot of bit teaching, and I always wanted to incorporate technology into teaching. So when I came to Singapore about 13 years ago, I had already been running teaching programs with online Moodle, open educational resources. I had a YouTube channel going on from 2008. So a lot of involved in technology, but I wanted to do more of technology within teaching. So I went and got a master's in instructional design and technology. So how to then create engaging and what do you call these interactive learning elements using various technological tools. I must say I don't know any coding, but it's all zero code tools to help do that. And so I was very interested. So when last year, generative AI, I mean, the year before in November, I started playing with it, and I realized that, wow, this is good. This is good, but it has its problems. But there were no real formal kind of structured program to teach us how to use it. So, uh, what do you call it? The mother necessity, the mother of invention, they say. So I decided
Mm.
to, because I had the skills to design educational programs with my master's in instructional design. So I started to create modules on how to learn to use AI. So I started off with AI in healthcare, and then we created, at the moment, we've got 12 different products. So we have AI in healthcare, AI in learning design, academic writing, AI in research. So on the 11th and 12th, I'm doing the University of Malaya Medical Center with Prof. Vicky. We are doing AI for healthcare. On the 17th of August, I'm doing AI for research, mainly qualitative research. So what happened was I started building this and then the structure, and that's when I realized a lot of people didn't know how to prompt. So that was the impetus to write the book Healthcare Promptology. So with another colleague of mine. So what we did was we wanted to get a proper structure, the whole process of validation. And I believe that the prompting and validation should be a skill that should be taught to everybody, and it should be integrated into the schools so that people are aware of how to use it. So a long story on how I got involved. And I'm quite pleased to say that over this 1 year, just last weekend, I was in KL and we were at a meeting, and I was talking to my colleagues at Asia Pacific University, and we have trained up to 4,300 people on how to use over the last 1 year and how to use generative AI. So yeah, that's how I got involved.
Yeah, since you brought it up, I just want to show the viewers that this is Dr. Vaikuntan's new book, and this is not your first book. You can
Yeah.
follow him as an author in Amazon. He's quite a prolific writer. So the title is The Healthcare Promptologist Unleashing the Power of Conversational Artificial Intelligence. So anybody who wants to get a copy, you can head over to Amazon, either a soft copy or the hard copy. So so that's your uh, impetus for coming out of the book, because you
Yes.
realize
Yeah.
people didn't
Mm.
know how to prompt.
Yep. Yep.
So uh, what are your tips for, you have any suggestions on for doctors just diving into AI for the
Yeah.
first time? Yeah.
So I think to maximize your use of it, I think it is greater than the internet. I think generative AI is bigger than the internet. A lot of people don't realize it. It is quite a significant impact. And I think it is important to try and get a bit of semblance of structure and training so that you become more efficient and you don't get wrong outputs and then you get frustrated. So the thing about conversational AI is almost like history taking. I think for doctors is how good a history you take. Somebody can spend 1 hour taking a history and still miss the diagnosis. The consultant comes in, 3 questions, he says, that's it. This is thyrotoxicosis. I just know it, partly because of targeted questioning. So if you look at a lot of the resources that are available in YouTube, people start selling you prompts. They're writing long prompts and all that. I also initially did all these long prompts. So I used to write my context and the reference and everything that I wanted, and then ask AI to create the prompt. Then I put back the prompt and got response. Then I realized the waste of time. So I think prompts are both a skill that can be learned and also an art. And I think the more you use it, the better you become. I'm constantly learning. So a few couple of days ago, I realized, oh gosh, I mean, if I did this, I got this. So that's where the art comes in, and it comes to practice. So now my prompts are not that long, but I like the chain of thought and the skeleton of thought. So I start off with, there are a lot of things I've learned. So actually my greatest tutor now is generative AI. And so between the difference between generative AI and conversational AI, so I use generative AI in a very conversational manner. So this is my mentor, my Sifu, my Taiko, who I converse with on a daily basis to get my ideas sharpened, to learn new things, and to get quick access to knowledge and even skills. So yeah, so I think that that skill should be everybody. So what I would say is get on and try it. Nothing to be frightened about, except be aware what it is. So generative AI is on the cloud, is in a platform. So don't share things that are personal, that are sensitive, should not be put into the prompt. So when you share your clinical history of a patient, make sure all identifiable data is removed and redacted or anonymized. So that's one of the very important steps. So I think here is where when we summarize to our consultants or when we discuss cases with colleagues, how we summarize, that's our prompt for clinical practice. That's the prompt that you want to put for clinical practice. So you must be clear in your summary. If your summary is weak, then you're going to end up with weakness, very, very poor results. And I would even give like racial background because I've tried it, and you will find that it knows like G6PD. If you say it's a Chinese, it it will come up with the G6PD deficiency as a differential. So that's the level. So I think it should be very easy for us in healthcare because we know how to summarize our clinical features for when you're using it for clinical practice. But there are so many other users.
Yeah, I think just like Googling,
Yeah,
there's a difference the way the layman Googles and the medical
yeah,
doctor Googles. So that should be a
yes,
difference between the
yeah,
way a
mm,
medical professional prompts
yes,
versus how perhaps a layman may prompt. I'm just generalizing. Would you
yeah,
agree this is basically the summary? Like we have to be specific yet detailed enough, and we
yes.
have to clearly define what we
So
want to ask. So
in my book and in my lectures, when we do our workshops, we go through that. So we spend 20-25 minutes of a 1 day workshop on prompting and validation. So the prompting, there are various things. So one is there are various types of prompts. There's a quick descriptive prompt. There's an iterative prompt. So you must give it the context under what situation you're asking. So you're going to ask about common conditions of anemia among Chinese living in Malaysia. So that context is very important because then it starts looking up in the back end what are the various things. Then you say the details you start giving. And then you say, this is the type of answer I want. I want you to give me a diagnosis, a confirmatory test, and give me recent advances and evidence for that. So the problem sometimes when you first start, it takes a while. So I don't write straight into, now I do, I just go because I'm quite familiar with it. But when I first started for the first timers, I tell them to take a Word document, spend about 15-20 minutes to write your prompt. So you get very clear. So you make sure everything is there, the context, what is the relevant data that it needs to understand that context, and then what is the kind of format that you want the response in. And so when you do that, then you have a then when you're happy with that, you cut and paste that into the generative AI platform and you will get your response. I also want to hear at how to become efficient. So the whole purpose of using generative AI is for us to become efficient and productive. And I would warn your audience is to, it is very addictive. And if your spouses leave you, I'm not responsible. I think Alan's wife is already climbing the
oh
walls
yeah,
because of
no,
his.
there's long given up, long given up.
Yeah. So why? So what is
Mm.
the cognitive neuroscience basis for this addiction? Previously, when we did our Google search, we spent up 15-20 minutes reading the article, synthesizing. So it's quite a tedious process. But now you get it done within a minute. I can do a literature review in 7 minutes. 7 minutes, I'm done a literature review, 10 articles, cited and referenced, everything done. So when you could do something well quickly, there is a dopamine rush. So just like the endorphins when you do a marathon. And so that's why I'm addicted. So I come back from work, on a working day, and I spend 3.5 hours on it. And in the weekends, I spend 8 to 10 hours on it. So you suddenly know how to do, you're getting what you want, you're becoming a better clinician, or a better teacher, or a better researcher. So I think that's the main thing. And so prompting is very important. So I think now, from prompting, from how to write it, I mean, it's best to do it really practice session. So I think less than 10% of my workshop has been virtual, 90% are hands-on. Because I remember I was running one of the early workshops in APU University, and one of the programmers, and she was a professor in AI, and we were going through the process of how to do prompts, and she was frustrated. She was not getting, others were getting in, people who didn't know AI were getting the responses and all celebrating, and I could see the frustration. So I walked behind her, because she's so clever. She was writing the prompt and putting it into the Python program platform. So because she thought it was the code, the prompt was the code. And I was quite shocked that, so yeah, so we'll be surprised. So just get on with it. Now, prompting is one. I think I need to spend more time on trying to talk about validation. So Alan, I think you put it very clearly when you say what's the difference between us prompting healthcare and the average patient trying to prompt, or to search in Google. So what response comes up? Now, for me, in my subject matter area that I am familiar with, once the response come out, I can tell because I am an expert in that subject. So if he says the commonest cause of iron deficiency anemia is thalassemia, I will probably say yes, but Ellen will say bullshit, or whatever the correct answer is. So I'm not good at that. But in my area, when I know, so I don't need to, because my intrinsic, so this is where we call tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. So the knowledge that I have is my own knowledge, and I can look at it and I validate. I said, fine, this is correct. I just cut and paste it and paraphrase or whatever I want to do with it. Now, if you are not sure, so if I put there that the use of ikan bilis sambal for the treatment of diabetes brings down blood sugar. That's the statement that came out of, let's say, that generative AI gave you that, ChatGPT gave you that. Now that sounds quite nice. It can make headlines because I like my ikan bilis sambal, but I need to validate that. So I would then ask GPT, just to give you a little bit of an example. So in context, I said, give me the search terms for this response you have given me. So it's put ikan bilis, diabetes, blood sugar. So I take the three search terms and I put into PubMed and I look for evidence. So there's a paper, let's say there's a paper done by USM, and they have shown 6% drop in blood sugar after eating ikan bilis sambal. So that's my evidence. So that is what we call the process of validation. So you must ensure you validate what comes out. So when you take that response from ChatGPT and act on it, either by the process of treating your patient, writing an article, or teaching your students, you have to take responsibility for it because AI cannot take. So when you do the validation of the response from your prompt, that's where I call real intelligence meeting artificial intelligence. And I assume that all of us have some real intelligence.
Yeah, very true. Um, I it can spurt out wonderful answers. We look very realistic, and
Yes.
the term people use for this fictitious answers, it may occasionally spew out is hallucination.
Yeah.
Um, and I think in the early days when you use ChatGPT, to say, for example, help us generate a reply letter to insurance company to justify the use of treatment A and so, and cite the references. So he came up with a beautiful letter and then gave references 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we checked, they were all fictitious. I
Yeah.
think non-existent journal publications with fictitious author names. So I think I think this is much less now. I think the ability, the training databases are now huge, and I think they've been updated
Yeah.
all the time.
So I think
Yeah.
OpenAI realized this,
Mm,
and I think I must reiterate to your audience that uh, ChatGPT is not a product yet. It is still a prototype. It is in development. So we have to take it with that kind of understanding, though we are paying for it. But actually, it is a fantastic model where it is learning by us paying for it. So that's the kind of business you want to be in. The product is being developed by subscribers who paying them billions of dollars. A few points. The hallucinations, as Alan mentioned, are less. I have used four because I have the paid version. So now the 4 Omni is made available for the non-paid customers for free, but with a limit on how many conversations you can have. But hallucinations are significantly lower, and the references, I would say 90% are pretty accurate. Having said that, for if you require that references for, I'll just give you a tip, Alan, is to
mm,
take that letter that you have got, which you are happy with that letter, take that letter and put it into another AI platform. It's called Jenny.ai, Jenni, I think. It's what you write, it will look for a citation for that paragraph. So, and that's pretty accurate. The free version, you gets you the citation, then you have to manually cut and paste, but the paid version, you can get a bibliography file that you can download. So for those who are writing papers and all that, so that's quite good, especially for experts who can write an article, just out of their head because of their experience. So then what they do is you can put that article into Jenny AI and start pulling the citation. Otherwise, you have to go paragraph by paragraph, putting it into PubMed or Google Scholar and start looking for that, which can be quite tedious. So this kind of speeds it up. So yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing I would want people to
I
uh,
think this is
no,
the website, right? G
no,
G,
it's J
not this
J
one, Jenny.
E J E, and let me just because there that's
Citations
why
and
you must
references.
also be careful. It's called JENNI.ai. No, sorry, sorry. Oh God. See, this is where a few of my participants have ended up buying the wrong products, and uh,
Yeah,
so it is called JENNI.ai. I will put
right.
it.
I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got it here. This
So
one,
yeah, I have moved down.
Jenni,
Yes, yes,
Jenny.
right.
Yeah.
AI. So this
Okay.
is excellent for those who are interested in writing paper, academicians and researchers. So the PhD students that I supervise, I tell them to pay that it's $12 US a month. It's worth it for the 1 year they're writing their thesis. This is a worth. This is, it shaves off 70, 80% of your time for writing. Yeah.
Right. Thanks for a great tip. Yeah. Okay. There. Maybe we'll just take a short uh, break to the some questions.
Sure,
There's
sure.
one
Yeah.
from Faris.
Okay.
Can the AI be able to access paid medical journals or textbook?
Mm. So there are a couple of other platforms. If you're looking to look up academic journal and citation, I would recommend two. One is elicit.org, ELLICIT. That's a rapid survey. And the other one is typeset.io, typeset.io. So these are two platforms. They do get it from how we get it, we don't know, but they do get the articles. You may not get the full PDF, but it has ways of what web crawling. It crawls to the paywall somehow and gets you. You may not get the full data, but you get enough for your purposes. Now, if you are going to use this method, so we've been writing a few reviews, literature reviews using AI. We have submitted a few for publication. But if you want to do like a systematic review, like a meta-analysis or qualitative evidence synthesis, then you will take those articles. You may not have the full PDF and get your librarians to bring out the full PDF. Then with the full PDF, you upload all the yeah, this is a size space, but it's called the URL is typeset.io. The other one is illicit.org. You can then upload all your PDF documents. Say you have 15 PDFs that you have gone through screening and you have decided that this is what you're going to use for your review and you're going to do data extraction. The site space will then go through it and pull out all the common themes. I sometimes also use directly with ChatGPT 4. The paid version allows you to upload. So what I do is now the paid versions of SciSpace and illicit.org, once you're happy with the screening and it has given you say 15 articles or 80 articles, and so recently we did one, we had 110 articles. It found for us, it did a search. So we downloaded the 110 article as an Excel spreadsheet, then we uploaded it up into ChatGPT and gave it the inclusion and exclusion criteria. And it did the screening and it brought it down to 90. And then the 90 was then manually went through by my team to pull out the data. And then we took those data, asked it to synthesize to write the discussion. And it also created the table extraction data extraction table that puts up all the 90 articles. So yeah, so sorry, a long answer to a brief question. It cannot directly access the paywall, but it can give you a long series of papers. Somehow or other, you have sufficient information to make a decision. If it is important enough for you, then you will have to take that bibliography and get the original article through your library.
Yeah, I think it cannot overcome the barrier or the
Yeah,
firewall
paywall.
to
Yeah.
a paywall to the journal account. But those sites you mentioned, I think some people do upload and share,
Yeah, exactly.
like some of
Yeah.
the other academic publication websites. So you can actually find those there as well. The chat GPT for cheapskates like me, Vaikunthan, still haven't subscribed. Chat GPT 4.0 can we can upload the journal.
Oh,
So I
is it?
just
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I can. Let me
Yeah.
share this one. What I did is this is just a paper on blinatumomab, which is a antibody used in leukemia. So I managed to upload it with the free ChatGPT 4.0 and then asked and then queried it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can cheapskates like me can still get it, but
Yeah.
it's limited. I think like 10
Yeah.
queries every
Yeah.
4 hours
And
or
then,
something. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So typeset.io I also used quite a lot. I remember
Mm.
when we had to go for ad board meetings, they just
Yeah.
give us like 30 papers to review.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
chuck all of it up into typeset.io and then
Yeah.
quickly read
Yeah.
through it. And I agree, it saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh, and you can speed up your reading of journals. Okay. There's a related question also from Faris. Can you give some advice on medical journal appraisal with
Are you
AI, I
talking
presume?
about
Yeah.
medical article review as a reviewer? I
Maybe
assume that's
reviewer
what.
or
Yeah.
reader or.
Okay. Yeah. So because I do a lot of academic review papers, both for journals and for marking masters and PhD theses. It can be a pain. So I created academic reviewer with my GPT. So the paid subscribers are able to create. So I have 33 specific bespoke GPTs I've created for the various aspects of my life to
Mm.
make it easy. So one of them is an academic reviewer. So if you go to ChatGPT and you search for academic reviewer with my name, then you see that. So I have put in all the guardrails, the various specifications of journals and everything. So it will read through the journal, immediately give me feedback where accept with major correction, minor correction, or reject. But not only that, it will then give me the recommendation. So the idea of being an academic reviewer is not just to reject, or accept. But a lot of people can't, they have a story to tell. I remember the late Ken Lee, my good friend, Prof. Go Ken Lee said, because he's one of a prolific academic writers. And one of the things he said that, they asked him, how come you write so much? And he says, I just have a story to tell. So we as clinicians, every day we see patients, there's a story to tell with our patients, and that's how we got to make it into a paper. So I do a lot of, previously I didn't have the time, I just say reject, and then I don't give reasons. So now I give them a good set of recommendations, sometimes 2 to 3 pages long, using generative AI to help them improve their paper, and from which I think I've got about 6 papers that were really crap. That after 3 to 4 months, they sent it back, and I insisted that I want to review it again when they came, and I accepted it. So the story got told, especially from some countries where they don't speak the language English very well, they don't know how to write it. So there's another one called Academic Ally, another thing I've written for those who want to write. So you put your paper in, and it will then rewrite it for you for a journal. Yeah. So that there are various available things. And if you have a paid version, you can instruct it to write it for your specific journal. So one of the journals wanted me to run a workshop for the editors, but they haven't got back to me. They are remote, so it's very difficult for me to run the workshop remotely without being face to face. So yes, the yeah. So the process is put up the paper, put up, so that there's the thing called chain of verification, chain of thought, chain of verification, chain of thought. Yeah, I think that's mine, academic review over there. So the
Yeah,
chain of
just to share with the viewers,
yes,
yeah, for again cheapskates like me, OpenAI has kindly let us explore
yeah,
GPT. So we can't
yeah,
create if you're a free user, but we can, in a limited manner, explore and then use for limited number of times the GPTs which have been shared, like
yeah,
yours, academic reviewer. So you can go to explore GPTs and search for Vaikuntan, and then you can come up with these tons of GPTs. I'm impressed, very impressed. Definitely will try academic reviewer and
yeah,
your other amazing GPTs there. So
yeah,
that's looks like a great tool if you're
yeah, reviewer.
you know, reviewer for journals. So yeah, excellent. Yeah. Okay. Uh, let's here's another question. This is probably also relevant for teachers,
Yes.
especially
Okay.
medical
So
school teach. Yeah.
SciSpace has got an AI detection tool. So if you go to SciSpace left-hand corner, right at the bottom, so you can take the whole paragraph and you put there, and it can help you paraphrase. After paraphrasing it, it will do AI detection. So plagiarism, they say that ChatGPT is a cause of plagiarism. ChatGPT is not a cause of plagiarism. ChatGPT never teach you to cheat. It is your mother and father who taught you how to cheat. So that is a character flaw in the individual who failed to recognize. So plagiarism is slightly different. Similarity index, you have to just right on the left side, right at the bottom, there's an AI detection tool. So
Yeah.
in terms of how do you go about it? So one, you can do this, but having said that, Turnitin is a tool that checks for plagiarism, had to switch off the AI detection tool, even if I wrote myself, even though my first language is English, we were all spoke English, but it treats us as English and not our first language, and it detects it as AI too. So I think Turnitin was challenged and they have switched it off. So in terms of AI detection is you have to challenge what do you mean by AI detection. So my spelling is very bad. I use Grammarly for all my writing because my grammar and spelling is useless, and that is AI. So when I submit to the journals, I say this was AI generated to a certain extent. So the journals are accepting that. So even for the thesis, if you didn't have done Grammarly to check your Grammarly, you cannot. So you just have to make sure that that what AI has created for you, you have to paraphrase it. You have to write it in the context of what you are doing. So these problems came about when people just cut and paste. So this is wrong. So in terms of GPT, like you say about plagiarism, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is failure to put your reference citation. So if William Osler says that we can comfort always, and he didn't give it to William Osler, then that is plagiarism. As long as you cite every paragraph, so for those who have done a PhD, so when I went through my PhD, it was quite a tough. Every paragraph had to have a citation. You chapter 1 to chapter 3 cannot have original thought. It has to be somebody. If you say that if you fall from 14 floors and you die, which was what happened when I was a houseman, somebody jumped off the 14th floor, and Professor Low wanted to know that if I had reached the patient earlier, could I saved him? I mean, I think you fall on 14 floors to a cement floor, you die, but there's no evidence for that. So, but you have to find the evidence. So plagiarism is about it's not a problem. So the style, whatever you get from there, you can change it to your style. So that's the beauty of GPT. For the paid version, my chat GPT knows me better than anybody else because I've been with this GPT for the last 1 year. It has got so much of my material. So yesterday I was a participant in a qualitative research. So I was too lazy to just start typing and saying my words. So I just went to my biographer, which is ChatGPT, and told it, give me the reasons why I did this. And then it came out, I edited it and I pasted it. So it knows you well enough, it knows your style. And so that's also a challenge. Because of that, sometimes I don't, most of the time it's professional and academic, but sometimes I want to write a little letter or something a bit jovial or jocular in nature. It doesn't. Then I had to re-prompt it. I said, remove my standard prompt for my answers. Can you now write it in a jocular manner? Then it'll do that. So yeah, so you can help it to one is it knows you. So the second time, so now when I prompt, it knows exactly what I want. I don't have to give it that much of detail. So even though it is nothing to do with academia, hand surgery, education, or generative AI, it will always come back and say, as a hand surgeon, you may find this useful. So that's one of the downside.
John Doe has a series of questions which I'm trying to
Okay.
wrap my head around.
Uh,
The first one is, how do you optimize prompt design to minimize biases present in language models like ChatGPT
okay.
while
Yeah.
maintaining accuracy and relevance? Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where the your prompt has to be precise and you can re-prompt it. So there's a thing called a chain of verification. So you can ask it, I want you to do like this. You give me an answer and then you find the evidence for the answer. And if your answer is wrong, re draft that answer. So you automate the iterative process to get that. As you are aware that this is Anglo-centric, the whole large language model is Anglo-centric. Anglo-centric means very English. Having said that, so we had a problem. We developed a chatbot for leprosy. We're doing some research in the Ministry of Health in Malaysia, and we rolled it out to the healthcare workers in the rural areas in Kelantan, Pahang. And the feedback was, is everything in English? They didn't know because they wanted to speak with Malay. So, but then because it was a RAG chatbot, so I took the database, the knowledge base, and I then translated to Malay and put it back, and then it works. So you can overcome the biases, but cultural biases, you'll be surprised. So one of the things I tested was I put in egg blur live longer. It's a very Singaporean idiom. I think it comes from Mandarin. Egg blur live longer, and it gave me a very good response saying that this is a Singlish in Singapore in Chinese where you just pretend you don't know and nobody will bug you, you know. So yeah, so they are. So it's the way you have to do it. So if you prompted it and said this is what happens in this language, so it's very interesting. So I was running this workshop in Sri Lanka, and one of the assignments I'd given them was to write a health education program for their area of specialty, a biggest problem, community or public health problem that they need to do in the language of Sinhalese, because that's the language of people. And so ChatGPT did it. Obviously, I didn't understand Sinhalese, so I asked one of them, "What's the quality of that response?" He says it's pretty good. And it's just not pretty good. It had incorporated certain idioms in the local language to make it authentic so that the public would be good. So you'll be surprised because the database is growing. So this is one of the disadvantages. It is not standardized. Today's response is slightly different from tomorrow's response because there's more data going in. It's constantly learning.
All right. Uh, Second question, in the context of complex or multi-turn conversations, how can the prompting strategy be adapted to maintain context and coherence
Okay, very
over
good question.
extended? That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mm.
here is where don't ask it a 300-word question. That's not, that can be the context. So you can put, so what I would do is I'll take, this is what this paper says about this. So that can be, so if you've got a paid version, you can put in, I think 1,000-page document. It reads it, say, okay, I understand. So I also give it time. However good a AI it is, it needs some time to kind of go through the algorithm. So I'll say, read this and understand it and let me know when you understand it. Then you'll try to summarize it. Don't summarize. So use the word don't because you're wasting energy. Remember, large language model using a lot of energy and water supply. So we have to be green. So as a UNESCO chair, I must try and maintain greenness. So the second, so what you do is don't,
Mm.
so tell it don't do something. So it stops. So I understand now. Okay. Based on that, then you start asking it just like a lawyer, you interrogate ChatGPT on its knowledge base. What were the population size for this paper? 16 people. Okay. What was the control group? So you then go for the key facts that you want. So that's how you take a multi-complex thing and you break it down in a form. It's like a chain of thought. You go one by one by one. You get the answers. And if you're then going to synthesize it, you can then lastly say, now I want you to take all these answers and synthesize it to a 200-word block. And it will do that for you. So that's how you get relevance, you get stuff. So if you're not happy with the response, can you give me 3 citations to confirm this, that what you say is true? And then you give, then you got to check the citations to make sure that they are real.
Very good. Effective techniques for generating prompts ensure language model understands and adheres to domain-specific
Uh,
terminologies and nuances.
okay. I don't believe, like I say, I think it's art and a science. There are no standard prompts. And I'm fortunate because my ChatGPT knows me so well. So my prompts become shorter and shorter now because it already knows it. I don't have to reiterate to it, a answer like a hand surgeon or answer like an instructional designer or answer like an educationist. So it already knows or where I want and what I want. So based on the text, it comes up. So I still think is there are no like buying a prompt, buy a prompt from Alan about how to diagnose leukemia. So you don't need that. I think just go back to basics. So if it's healthcare related, summarize your content with no identifiable data. Give me a clinical summary. Don't give me all the bullshit that he takes half an hour walk up, Gassing Hill and all that. I don't need to know all that. but give me a good business summary, a clinical summary that I could take it, and then you will get your domain specific things coming out. And if you want that answer to be for a patient, then you can say, please produce this output for a patient. So one of the prompts that I teach is, so for those who have a paid version, I think the unpaid version, so if you download it onto your phone, you can have conversational AI. So generative AI is slightly different from conversation. Generative just generates stuff. Conversation you get into. So in a way, you are coming to a conversation. How do I do this? Rapid question answer. So what I do is I switch on because I use an Android. So the generative ChatGPT app is there. I switch on the microphone button and I leave it on my table and I take a history and examination of my patient. So the history and examination, I articulate it. So the patient and I just talking must be the same language. So, but I've tried it in Malay, it works. If you spoke in Bahasa, somebody has tried it in Mandarin, it also works. So you speak, and then when you have your clinical findings, you have to narrate your clinical findings as you would do in your final exams. So that the examiner knows what you're doing. So on palpation, the liver is 2 finger breath. So as you say all that, and then when it's finished, I press the button to stop recording, press another button to upload, and I get an EMR. The EMR is not a transcript, but it's taken the transcript and converted it into electronic medical record, which then I cut and paste it into my EMR system in my hospital. That's how it is now entered into the clinical arena, and is making my clinical notes are now 2-3 pages long. It used to be one line: ganglion, better, not keen for off discharge. Those were my clinical notes. So now they are 1 page long.
I wonder if any of my hospital administrators are listening to what you just said, because that's a big problem with our surgeons in our hospital. One line entries. If
Yeah.
we are lucky,
So I, I
yeah.
don't blame them. I see 105, 107 patients a
Mm,
day. I
yeah.
can't be typing. I can't type. I do a 2 finger typing, and they refuse to give us transcripting, software in our clinics. So so
Mm,
I have to overcome it. So actually, Microsoft partnered with Epic. So we use Epic, which is one of the largest EMR world,
mm.
and they bought over Dragon Dictate. Microsoft brought Dragon Dictate and they put it into it and they create the Copilot DEX. It's called DEX that sits on Epic and it's called Ambient Clinical Recording. So our hospital didn't buy it, so I created one. So it's called Electronic Medical Record on my GPTs. You can use it. Just those who, if you can download it, try it out. Straight away, everything is done. So you can even say, now give me a script to help him advise on doing some diet and physical activity. And immediately, because it already knows the story, he'll come up with a personalized diet plan and exercise plan, which you can print and give it to him.
That's fantastic. So that's one of your GPTs too,
Yes, yes.
Vaikuntan? Yes, yeah.
Electronic
Okay.
medical record.
Yeah. Go look for it in ChatGPT. It's free to use. And I think we got 10 minutes more. There's still some more questions. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
pick and choose. No, we won't cover plagiarism. Yeah. How can we evaluate and iterate on prompting strategies and ensure that they are effective across diverse user demographics and use
Cannot.
cases?
So the idea is you want a generic answer. Even Google can do, Gemini can do. You want something that is more. So you must be specific in what that you want. So here's where people get very poor quality response. When you are generic, when you're very generalized, it'll give you generalized answer. If you are happy with that, that's fine. That's fine. But if you want specificity, you want it to be sharp, you want it to get what you want, then your prompting has to be that way, has to be specific. So there are something. So I can start off writing a paper. I want an introduction, very general. So I tell it, so this is my topic. I want to see the role of patient articulation for nerve recovery rather than surgeon reported measures. So I start out, what are the patient reported outcome measures? what are patient-reported experience measures? Start off with that. And then I will ask it, write me a few paragraphs on that, and then say about nerve surgery, how's nerve surgery being evaluated? So that's how you then bring it down, just as what you would do in writing a paper or in a thesis. So you start with the generality. So you start it off, then you say, okay, can you now be specific and say, what about diabetics with poorly controlled hypertension, with peripheral vascular disease? What would be the strategies for blood sugar control or something?
And yeah. Okay. I think the ethics of authorship, intellectual property, we already covered that.
Yes.
Maybe if I can share something, for those of you new to uh, generative AI and ChatGPT, so I came across what is known as the master prompt of all prompts. In case you do not know how to prompt at all, this master prompt will teach you. I will post it in the comments and later on in the video description. But I just want to demonstrate what you think of this. Okay, so it starts off like that. It says create a curated list of use cases for ChatGPT, thoughtfully designed to align with my occupation. So it asks you what your occupation is, and then organize into 10 distinct sections relevant to my occupation, and then a use case, and then an example request. So there will be use cases for you to start off with in case you do not know uh, what questions to ask. So the ChatGPT responds by requesting what is your occupation, interests, and goal. So let's put something like I am a hand surgeon interested in AI, but don't know where to start. So, and there it goes. You can see use cases. So first one on patient care, clinical documentation, and then all the example prompts on the right. Research, continuous learning, AI, practice management, professional development, patient data analysis. Or what, and it goes down to the 10 sections which we've defined in our prompt request. So if you don't know what questions to ask in your specialty, use this master prompt. And I think this list will just get you started. And then with the tips Dr. Vaikuntan has given you, I think you can fine tune, reiterate the prompts again and learn from generative AI. What do you think?
Yeah. So because you are the free versions, it has no memory. So the paid version remembers you. So that's one of the great things. So I don't have to repeat. So when you get the paid version, you open your account, you go to settings,
Mm,
and in the
mm.
settings, you can set my customized GPT. So it will ask you to describe yourself. So that's where, so like mine, I say I'm an academic, 40 years of experience in surgery, medical education, instructional design, interested in generative AI. So I put in basically a summary of my CV. So that's what you can do. Take a CV and ask it to make it customize this to my customization of my GPT. Then it puts in there. Then what's the kind of response you want? So I always say I like bullet lists and sub bullets because these have become useful for me to create PowerPoints with infographics because bullet and sub bullets are ideal for infographics for my PowerPoint. So yeah, so that's the great advantage of the paid version because and then every time you converse with this, it's remembering. You have an option to switch it off. I don't switch it off because I just wanted to remember, learn more and more about it. And I find that the responses I'm getting now are sharper and much better because it knows me well. I think nobody knows me as well as my ChatGPT.
Not even your wife?
Yes,
Eh?
no. Even though we write some papers together, but because my research with this is just not an academia, so I'm learning new stuff. Like on Monday, we're running a workshop for the elderly, the use of technology for elderly, and we're going to use the conversational AI of ChatGPT to be a companion for lonely people. So we're going to teach people how to do that.
Yeah, I'm using it for learning languages as well. So,
Yes, yes, yeah,
it's a
yeah,
great tool. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Faris has one question earlier on.
yes.
Besides ChatGPT, any other AI subscriptions that you recommend while we
Okay,
wrap up this
okay,
show? Any
sure.
tips? Yeah.
So I think if you're on a budget, ChatGPT is mandatory. The second one I will go for is Space. That's $12 a month. These are two I think you'll be okay with. If you're a lecturer, you do a lot of PowerPoint presentation. The other one I find is called Gamma.ai, GAMMA. You give it a prompt, it'll create for you slides. The unpaid version creates 8 slides. Then you can expand on it with graphics, with beautiful designs and stuff like that. So these are the three that I would do. I pay for all of it. I spend a significant amount of my salary on
Mhm.
subscriptions for this, partly because I just want to see. But then slowly I take off those that I don't use. But I would say ChatGPT 4, and I also pay for Gemini. I fling between, I use 70% ChatGPT, about 30% Gemini to get it a little bit more. So we got a paper we are publishing comparison between Gemini and Copilot, Copilot and ChatGPT. Copilot and then ChatGPT is very professional, very straight, no jokes, no fun stuff. Whereas Gemini can be a bit more fun. So we asked it to create scenarios for history taking. Gemini created based on the context. They started putting a Chinese name, a Malay name, because it understood your IP address that you were based in Singapore, and it gave specific things. So yeah, so each one of them, I think, but ChatGPT 4 and SciSpace.
Yeah. The Just a list of the generative AI which are free in the basic form, but all of them have some professional or paid versions. Maybe you can try them all and see which
Yeah,
you like. I think Claude is by Anthropic is also quite popular these days, and there are some where you can actually download onto your own computer if it's powerful enough with a good GPU or graphics card. For example, I think Meta has just released its latest Llama 3.1 model. So if you like to play around with these tools, but you need the adequate hardware. So, I think there are a lot of generative AI tools, and this is just the text. I mean, I could also spend money on things like for image
video and
generation, video generation. Yeah, there's so many types of generative tools these days. So I mean, you may want to subscribe to Mid Journey and some text to speech and text to speech and video generative tools. There are plenty, but I think those academic ones you mentioned, I think very worthwhile considering. We have come to the end of almost an hour, and just want to share with you uh, again Dr. Vaikuntan's book. If you want to learn more and dive deeper into prompting as a healthcare professional, I think it's worthwhile getting the book, The Healthcare Promptologist, Unleashing the Power of Conversational Artificial Intelligence. I think, Vaikuntan, you've certainly inspired all of us tonight, and given great tips and hints for those of us especially beginning in the AI journey. I think AI is transformative. I don't think we should sort of poo-poo it and thinking it's just a fad. And things are changing. Search is no longer going to be the way it used to be. Search is now AI search. And I think OpenAI has launched Search GPT, which is transformational, and it's going to change the way we look for information, and that not only applies to doctors but almost everyone else on the planet. I think I'm quite excited to see where this space takes us in the next few years. As long as we live, I think every year is going to be an amazing journey. I don't know whether it's a bubble which will burst eventually. Vaikuntan, what do you think? I mean, it uses
No,
so much energy
yeah. So
and
I
things
think
like that. Yeah.
there are a lot of people working in the back end. So I think large
Mm.
language model may not be the answer. I think small language models.
Mm.
So I've started working on small language models. I mean, using our
Mm.
own database and using that because we don't need everything. I don't need physics, chemistry, and all this kind of stuff. My knowledge base is hand surgery. So if I just put that, so less energy consumption, I get my answers quicker. So that's why the mini has come out, the 4.0 mini. So it's it's a smaller, less energy consumption. I think this is transformative in the sense that this is going to permeate every part of society, and we don't need to know the algorithms. I mean, even data analysis. I tell my statisticians their days are numbered because I'm doing stats on ChatGPT. So I think it's something that we all need to train. We need to integrate it into our medical schools. So I recently wrote an article in our LinkedIn about how medical schools are really lagging behind. There's not a medical school where generative AI is in the curriculum because the curriculums are so static. They haven't. So they need to be incorporated into the teaching. So yeah.
So if you want to connect with Dr. Vaikuntan, I think you can look for him in LinkedIn. He is very prolific there as well and writes lots of articles which are published there, which are very enthralling, and they dive deep into many aspects of AI. So with that, I think I would like to thank you, Vaikuntan, for sharing your insight into AI prompts. And I wish we could go on and on, but I think it's Saturday night and we have to give you a
Yeah.
rest as well. Yeah. So thank you
Okay.
once again. And,
Thank you.
go and check out his book and check out his LinkedIn profile. And we'll hope to see you again in the next one.
Sure.
So I'm going to
Sure.
end the stream now. So everyone have a good weekend. All right. Bye
Thank you for
bye.
inviting me. Bye.